Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show. Welcome back to another Friday Arduin review. Tonight we will be doing part 2 of the Arduin 2 book, which is a standalone Arduin game all in one handy dandy volume of, close to 1,000 pages? No. It's, okay, 487, 490 some odd pages of Arduin absolute goodness. As usual, I'm going to go through the table of contents, having already read the entirety of this book, except for all the tables and charts at the end, but we'll get to that in just a moment or two. Cheesy bookmark. As you know, this book is basically 2 volumes condensed into one, the Arduin book 1 and 2, and this is the resources book, mostly spells and magic items and monsters, and all the things the GM needs to populate his world and make it as exciting and dangerous and plentiful and fruitful and wonderful as David A. Hargrave imagined. Whether you use this to recreate games in Arduin or your own world, I guarantee you will find everything in this book highly useful, even if you're running your own world and you just want to grab bits and pieces out of it, especially the resources part of this volume. As you'll soon see, the additions possible from this book are I'm not going to say endless because everybody says that, but you'll be hard pressed to use up all of the information in this book in a normal lifetime. So let's get on with the table of contents. Chapter 1, Spells and Other Magical Formula. This includes the wizardly magic, the druid and priestly magic, the illusionary magic, the runeweaver magic, the herbal recipes, the alchemical skills, and the spell finder, which is basically just an index of what page you can find all the different spells. The magic user spells, while it includes very familiar spells like web and teleport and things like that are pretty common in just about every other game, it has a whole lot of other spells that will be great to surprise your players with. They will, unless they have this book, you can throw spells at them that they've never heard of, never seen before, and have no idea what to expect. With this system of magic, there's, I believe, instead of levels, they're called orders, and the wizard spells are, I believe, 25 different orders, which is 25 groups of leveled spells, all exceedingly more powerful than the previous spells, and all more deadly and surprising in the way they look and the way they affect the game world in general. The illusionary spells, there are actually a few more orders of spells, but less actual spells. Some of the orders only have one spell, which I think is kind of not great. It would have been better to just lump them in with the previous category, just to make more spells in an order. But I'm assuming that later on down the road, when they make the next version of this game, that there'll be a lot more spells to choose from. The Runeweaver spells, those spells are more malleable. You can literally create spells almost on the fly by setting the circumstances and the effects as you weave them together, from my understanding. So it makes for a very interesting, albeit slow casting time sort of magic. But if your evil bad guy or the players have the time, they can come up with spells that will fit more specific circumstances, kind of like the old days where you could hang spells or pre-programmed spells, that sort of thing, or just make spells that you don't have and create your own form of magic. The herbal recipes were absolutely wonderful. This gives you specific ingredients to hunt for to make all these incredible potions and dusts and powders and glues and things like that. And even if you don't use these exact recipes, it definitely gives you ideas on how to start that process in your game. I know a lot of dungeon masters like to have the players go and look for all the ingredients for their scrolls and their spells in their spell books, the magic items and potions and all those things, and this just gives you more inspiration on how to do that sort of thing. And then the alchemical skills, which are, also similar to the recipes, but a little bit more involved and a little bit more tailor-made for the actual alchemist, making glues and other things that you'd expect an alchemist to know how to do. The magic items, probably my all-time favorite contribution of David A. Hargrave. His magic items inspired me to go on and make some of the crazy gonzo magic items I'm famous for, or not so famous for, or maybe even infamous for. These magic items are, in a lot of cases, almost game-breaking, because they push the boundaries of what magic can do and what can be shoved into, a tiny little item like a ring or a wand, or a brooch, or even a cloak. Some of his cloaks were some of the best cloaks I've ever come across. And for those GMs who, again, want to throw surprises at their players, especially with some of the cursed items or items that are like half cursed, half good, this is a great source of inspiration. And like I've always told you about Arduin, all things Arduin have always been my secret weapon in my arsenal as a dungeon master. Things I could pull out of my hat that no one would be expecting, nobody's heard of, and as a GM, you need to be able to improvise, like I've said before, especially last night. And this is a great way to have little bits of information ready to throw at your party at the drop of a hat. Once you've read a good amount of Arduin, you'll have things that they'll never see coming. Then the next chapter is monsters great and small. This includes all your wild animals, horses, dogs, pigs, sheep, and of course the monsters, the little things like giant rats and spiders and snakes, all the way up to dragons and wraiths and zombies and liches. And his take on all of those things, especially the bigger creatures, always have little surprises that your players aren't going to be expecting. This chapter also includes not just the dragons and the elementals and the forces of fairy, but the demons, angels, and gods. And of all the monsters I've ever come across, David A. Hargrave's demons are by far the scariest, most terrifying monsters I could ever imagine having to actually fight against. Some of these monsters blast off levels in the half dozens, at least 4, maybe not quite 6, but imagine your party's, suddenly losing 4 levels from an attack. They're going to run screaming for their mommies in a heartbeat. These demons were absolutely the most fearsome creatures I've ever read about. And to top it off, he then throws in his greater named demons, and obviously the angels and gods. And the greater named demons make things like Ariok look like, pushovers in comparison. These demons will literally give your characters and players nightmares. The angels and gods, obviously, they're a little less fearsome and scary, but nonetheless just as equally powerful. And if you're running an evil party, well, then they're going to be just as scary as the demons. And I highly recommend you pay close attention to all of his treatises and essays on the different aspects of monsters like undead and elementals and dragons and all their unique abilities and takes on the old, tried and true monsters like dragons and undead and elementals. Chapter 4 is the Game Master's Aids, with more of his essays on how he runs his game in regards to things like undead turn away, injury and health, random traps, breakage for normal and magical items, the environmental hazards, the weather, things like that a lot of game systems just talk about it. Here's a paragraph, and then on to the next subject. Here you'll find some really reliable charts for weather conditions, random weather encounters, and things like that, as well as travel from place to place and the GM checklist. Finally, rounding it all off is the index and the list of tables in Book 2 with all the different, tables. Instead of having to, look through the book for the table, there's a list of all the tables that are in the book so that you can just quickly find what you're looking for. And last but not least, There are a few bonus items in this book toward the end of the book, obviously. And my favorite part, possibly, of the entire book, other than the magic items, is a monster to this day scares the crap out of all of my players. If I say these two words together, they are literally needing to change their clothes. I'm just going to leave it at that. These monsters, and they're not even really monsters, but I'm not going to say exactly what they are. I will just leave you with the two words that should strike fear into all players, great and small, throughout all the known worlds and all the known dimensions, and that is Doom Guards. So, with all that, hope you guys have a great weekend. Hopefully, you will get to play a game with your friends or family members. I'm looking forward to the game with Bruce tomorrow. I've been counting the days since last time we played. And until next time, thanks for stopping by. We love you guys. Good night.